Hello, SKs. We are almost at the end of the novel. There's only 2 chapters left. This one is chapter 21, and before I start, I'm going to ask you to ask one of your parents or an older sibling to come and sit with you to hear this one. Okay, it's a little bit sad as we go through this chapter, and I don't want you to be all alone. All right? It's called Last Day. Charlotte and Wilbur were alone. The families had gone to look for Fern. Templeton was asleep. Wilbur lay resting after the excitement and strain of the ceremony. His medal still hung from his neck. By looking out of the corner of his eye, he could see it. "Charlotte?" asked Wilbur after a while. "Why are you so quiet?" "I like to sit still," she said. "I've always been rather quiet." "Well, yes, but you seem especially so today. Do you feel all right, Charlotte?" "A little tired, perhaps, but I feel peaceful. Your success in the ring this morning was, to a small degree, my success. Your future is assured. You will live, Wilbur, secure and safe. Nothing can harm you now. These autumn days will shorten and grow cold. The leaves will shake loose from the trees and fall. Christmas will come and the snows of winter. You will live to enjoy the beauty of a frozen world, for you mean a great deal to Zuckerman, and he will not harm you, not now or ever. Winter will pass, the days will lengthen, the ice will melt in the pasture pond. The song sparrow will return and sing. The frogs will wake up and the warm wind will blow again. All these sights and sounds and smells, they will be yours to enjoy, Wilbur, this lovely world with its precious days." Charlotte stopped. A moment later, a tear came to Wilbur's eye. "Oh, Charlotte," he said, "to think that when I first met you, I thought you were cruel and bloodthirsty." When he recovered from his emotion, Wilbur spoke again. "Why did you do all this for me?" he asked. "I don't deserve it. I've never done anything for you." "You have been my friend," replied Charlotte. "That in itself is a tremendous thing. I wove my webs for you because I liked you. After all, what's a life anyway? We're born, we live, and then we die. A spider's life can't help being something of a mess with all this trapping and eating of flies. By helping you, Wilbur, perhaps I was trying to lift up my life a trifle. Heaven knows anyone's life can stand a little lifting up." "Well," said Wilbur, "I'm no good at making speeches. I haven't got your gift for words, Charlotte. But you saved me, and I would gladly give my life for you. I really would." "I'm sure you would, and I thank you for your generous sentiments." "Charlotte," said Wilbur, "we're all going home today. The fair's almost over. Won't it be wonderful to be back home in the barn cellar again with the sheep and the geese? Aren't you anxious to get home?" For a moment, Charlotte said nothing. Then she spoke in a voice so low, Wilbur could hardly hear the words. "I will not be going back to the barn," she said. Wilbur leapt to his feet. "Not going back?" he cried. "Well, Charlotte, what are you talking about?" "I'm done for, Wilbur," she replied. "In a day or two, I will be dead. I haven't even strength enough to climb down into the crate. I doubt if I have enough silk in my spinnerets to even lower me to the ground." Hearing this, Wilbur threw himself down in an agony of pain and sorrow. Great sobs racked his body. He heaved and grunted with desolation. "Charlotte," he moaned, "Charlotte, my true friend." "Come now, let's not make a scene," said the spider. "Do be quiet, Wilbur. Stop thrashing about." "But I can't stand it," shouted Wilbur. "I won't leave you here alone to die. If you're going to stay here, then I shall stay here too." "Now don't be ridiculous," said Charlotte. "You can't stay here. Zuckerman and Lurvy and the Arables and the others will be back any moment now, and they'll shove you into that crate and away you'll go. Besides, it wouldn't make any sense for you to stay. There will be no one here to feed you, Wilbur. The fairgrounds will soon be empty and deserted." Well, now Wilbur was in a panic. He raced round and round the pen, and suddenly he had an idea. He thought of the egg sack and the 514 little spiders that would hatch in the spring. If Charlotte herself was unable to go into the barn, at least he must take her children along. Wilbur rushed to the front of his pen. He put his front feet up on the top board and he gazed around. In the distance, he saw the Arables and the Zuckermans approaching. He knew he was going to have to act quickly. "Where's Templeton?" he demanded. "He's in the corner, under the straw, asleep," said Charlotte. Wilbur rushed over, pushed his strong snout under the rat, and tossed him up into the air. "Templeton!" screamed Wilbur. "Wake up! Pay attention!" The rat, surprised out of a sound sleep, looked first dazed and then disgusted. "What kind of monkey shine is this?" he growled. "Can't a rat catch a wink of sleep without being rudely popped into the air?" "You listen to me," cried Wilbur. "Charlotte's very ill. She only has a short time left to live. She can't accompany us home because of her condition. Therefore it's absolutely necessary that I take her egg sack with me. But I can't reach it, and I can't climb. You're the only one that can get it, and there's not a second to lose. The people are coming. They'll be here in no time. Oh, please, please, Templeton, climb up and get the egg sack." The rat yawned. He straightened his whiskers, and then he looked up at the egg sack. "So," he said, in disgust, "it's old Templeton to the rescue again, is it? Templeton do this, Templeton do that. Templeton run down to the dump and get me a magazine clipping. Templeton lend me a piece of string so I can spin a web. Oh, hurry," said Wilbur. "Hurry up, Templeton." But the rat was in no hurry. He began imitating Wilbur's voice. "Hurry up, Templeton," he said. "Ho, ho, and what thanks do I ever get for these services, I'd like to know? Never a kind word for old Templeton, only abuse and wisecracks and remarks on the side. Never a kind word for a rat." "Oh, Templeton," said Wilbur in desperation, "if you don't stop talking and get busy, all will be lost. I will die of a broken heart. Oh, please climb up now." Templeton lay back in the straw. Lazily he put his forepaws behind his head and crossed his knees in an attitude of complete relaxation. "Die of a broken heart," he mimicked. "How touching, my. I notice it's always me you come to when in trouble. But I've never heard of anyone's heart breaking on my account. Oh, no. Who cares about old Templeton?" "Oh, get up," screamed Wilbur. "Stop acting like a spoiled child." But Templeton just grinned and lay still. Who made trip after trip to the dump? Old Templeton. Who saved Charlotte's life by scaring that Arable boy away with a rotten goose egg? Bless my soul, I believe it was old Templeton. Who bit your tail and got you back on your feet this morning after you fainted in front of the crowd? Old Templeton. Has it ever occurred to you I'm sick of running errands and doing favors? What do you think I am? A rat of all work? Well, Wilbur was now desperate. The people were coming, and the rat was failing him. Suddenly he remembered Templeton's fondness for food. "Templeton," he said, "I will make you a solemn promise. You get Charlotte's egg sack for me, and from now on I will let you eat first whenever Lurvy slops me. I will let you have your choice of everything in the trough, and I won't touch a thing until you're through." The rat sat up at that. "You mean it?" he said. "I promise, cross my heart." "All right, it's a deal," said the rat. He walked to the wall and started to climb. His stomach was still swollen from last night's gorge. Groaning and complaining, he pulled himself slowly to the ceiling. and he crept along till he reached the egg sack. Charlotte moved aside. She was dying, but she still had just enough strength to move a little out of the way. Then Templeton bared his long, ugly teeth and began snipping the threads that fastened the sack to the ceiling. Wilbur watched from below. "Use extreme care, please," he said. "I don't want a single one of those eggs harmed."
"This stuff sticks in my mouth," complained the rat. "It's worse than caramel candy."
But Templeton kept working away at the job, and he managed to cut the sack adrift and carry it to the ground, where he dropped it in front of Wilbur. Wilbur heaved a great sigh of relief. "Well, thank you, Templeton," he said. "I will never forget this as long as I live."
"Neither will I," said the rat, picking his teeth. "I feel as though I'd eaten a spool of thread. Well, home we go."
Templeton crept back into the crate and buried himself in the straw. He got out of sight just in time. Lurvy and John Arable and Mr. Zuckerman were coming along at that moment, followed by Mrs. Arable and Mrs. Zuckerman and Avery and Fern. Wilbur had already decided how he would carry the egg sack. There was only one way possible. He carefully took the little bundle into his mouth, and he held it there on top of his tongue. He remembered what Charlotte had told him, that the sack was waterproof and strong. It felt funny on his tongue. It made him drool a bit, and of course it meant he couldn't say anything. But as he was being shoved into the crate, he looked up at Charlotte, and he gave her a wink. Charlotte knew he was saying goodbye in the only way he could, and Charlotte knew her children were safe. "Goodbye," Charlotte whispered, and then she summoned all the strength she had left and waved one of her front legs at Wilbur. Charlotte never moved again. The next day, as the Ferris wheel was being taken apart, and the race horses were being loaded into vans, and the entertainers were packing up their belongings and driving away in their trailers, Charlotte, the spider, died. The fairgrounds were soon deserted. The sheds and buildings were empty and forlorn. The infield was littered with bottles and trash. Nobody, of the hundreds of people that had visited the fair, knew that a little grey spider had played the most important part of all. No one was with her when she died. And that's the end of chapter 21. But don't worry, lovely things are coming.